like your restaurant is constantly behind, short staff, slow to train new people, or bleeding money on inefficiency, then this video is for you. Because most owners think they need more staff to grow their restaurant, but the reality is that you need a system that gets more out of the team that you already have, right? And so in this video, I'm going to walk you through 5 proven steps to turn your restaurant into an operational machine, right? One that consistently trains better staff, reduces turnover headaches, and lets you run leaner without sacrificing service. And so if you want an edge over competitors who still run on chaos, watch this until the end, because this is how the best operators will win in 2025. Now, to give you a quick background on me, I grew up in my family's restaurants and helped grow an Indian casual sit-down restaurant to over 11 locations with a minimum of 35 staff on rotation every single week. And I specifically am only talking about front of house staff, right? I also helped with training and management of our team at a microbrewery and smokehouse, as well as 2 Chipotle-style Indian QSR spots. So towards the more microbrewery, fine dining, upscale restaurant, also to a quick service restaurant where you're behind the till, and then a casual sit-down restaurant where you have waiters busting the floor. I've kind of worked in all 3 of these, and I'm now the CEO of Certus AI, an AI phone agent that is on the mission to replace the restaurant phone line entirely, which just happens to be backed by Y Combinator. It is the #1 pre-seed investment fund in the world. Companies like Airbnb, DoorDash, Instacart, Stripe, Reddit, and thousands of more have come out of this fund. And so the reason I'm making this video today is because I want to talk about how to run your restaurant with half the staff without losing service. Now, just to quickly start on something, I'm going to talk about labor, right? Over the last year, I've spoken to over 1,200 restaurants in the US, UK, and Canada about their biggest challenges. And there's one thing that keeps coming up over and over again. It is labor. And the reason this is the most difficult problem you'll face, or the most difficult problem you'll face and the problem you'll need to solve, is because your restaurant's performance is directly correlated to the quantity of people you hire and the level of effectiveness and efficiency they operate under, right? Many starting and some veteran restaurateurs even think that food is the reason their business will thrive or die, right? But food is subjective. At the end of the day, labor and operational management of that labor is an objective advantage, right? Your food might be better, sure, but if your operation is worse than your competitors, they will win. So I will say this again, and I know it's contrarian, but food is subjective, right? And so if you're ready to manage, train, and retain staff better than your competitors, if you're not ready to manage, train, and retain staff better than your competitors, you are giving up your edge. Now, I do want to kind of caveat this, and I want to say that without being naive or ignorant, I do understand there are some systemic issues that you're going to have to navigate with this, right? The first one is that minimum wages are rising, right? According to the US, in the US specifically. In California, we have a $20 hour minimum for fast food. New York is over $16 an hour. Turnover rates, right, over 70% a year. That means you're consistently rehiring and retraining your entire staff every 12 to 18 months. And then more importantly, you have a shrinking labor pool. According to the NRA, there are over 500,000 fewer restaurant workers in the US than pre-COVID, right? The problem is, again, fewer people, more competition, higher wages. It's literally the perfect storm. But the problem is that most independent restaurants are just hoping it will get better. And I don't want to be the guy in the room that says it won't, but you have to prepare for it, right? Because your systems in your restaurant is what you actually have control over. And so if you want to survive, you need to design your restaurant to work even with new staff walking in the door on day one, right? Because the operators who master this aren't just good at food. They're good at running factories of hospitality. It's not glamorous, I know, but that is the truth. And so what I want to start with is the 5 steps. The first thing that I will touch on, because I think it is the most easy to understand, is automate the repeatable. You can't replace people, right? But you can augment them. Hospitality will always need humans. That is my belief, right? And it's funny, I run an AI company, but I do believe that hospitality will always need humans. But too often, your staff are stuck doing anything but hospitality, right? What they do is they are typing orders into the terminal. They are answering the same phone question for the 50th time. They're scheduling, customer things by text or writing things on sticky notes. It's ridiculous, right? Every repeatable task you automate buys back human attention for what matters most: service. That is the most important thing when treating customers, the hospitality and the service part. And so the first thing that I would suggest, and the #1 way I've seen restaurants automate the repeatable, is by using kiosks. So automating your counter, right? Stop taking orders for things a kiosk can handle. It is intuitive to customers. It is integrated with your POS. It has clear upsell prompts, meaning that it will always upsell, so you will make more money. But more importantly, that is one less staff member needed to attend to the customers, which means that, to attend to the customers right at the front, which means that they can focus on other things, whether that's serving customers or helping the people in the back of house, whatever it is, right? Point being, chains have been doing this for years. They've been years ahead on this, and independents can do it too without a big IT budget, right? And so the best thing I've seen is 2 to 4 kiosks on a shelf for finished orders to be placed where customers can pick them up, right? Manager is there to handle any urgent in-person matters, but other than that, it's a self-serve model. And this is something that we were doing in our Indian quick service restaurant as well. The second thing is, obviously, use AI to take your phone calls, right? Now, I know this one best because at Certus AI, it's exactly what we do, right? Phone calls are a huge pain point. In all 3 versions of the restaurants that I was in, the models of the restaurants, as well as the customers that we have, staff are ignoring calls during rush hours. Orders are taken wrong, let alone orders not being taken at all because the phone's not being picked up. Lost upsell opportunities, guests waiting on hold, frustrated that no one is picking up the phone. And so what Certus AI does is it answers every single call instantly, takes orders accurately, and even integrates with your point of sale, right? Restaurants don't lose orders and staff can focus on the guests in the store. And so just to give you a quick example, the station restaurant, and obviously I want to say, like, if you have an AI taking your phone calls and you have a kiosk taking orders from the person at the restaurant, it means you really need a manager for the front of house in urgent situations, and then people who are just, giving the food to the restaurants. And I mean, you could even get one of those little robots that do that. I wouldn't suggest going down there just yet. I think it's kind of dystopian. But anyways, point being, I'm giving you an example of a restaurant that works with us. So the station restaurant and catering was losing thousands every month in missed calls. Once they automated their phone line, they didn't need to hire any extra staff for the counter or for the front of house, and they could just reinvest in better service, right? And Spiros, he was the manager, and now he's the owner of this restaurant. And he basically, he's got a video speaking to us, basically saying, I went from sleeping 4 hours to working 4 hours on the business because of how much Certus AI has helped him. And so feel free to pause the video and look at our our Trustpilot reviews as well. So I'm going to stop there in terms of the step 1 for automate and the repeatable. There are thousands of other things that you can do. You can use scheduling softwares. You can use scheduling softwares. You can use those robots I was talking about. There's tons of things that you can do. But I would say if I had to bring an action step, I would basically say audit the shift, right? Sit in your restaurant for one full service. Write down everything your staff does, and then circle anything that is repetitive, time-consuming, and low value. So I would literally create a checklist. I would write down, they do X, they do Y, they pick up the phone, they're dealing with customers at the counter, as an example. And then circle anything that you can see is repetitive, time-consuming, and low value. And then ask yourself, could tech do this faster, cheaper, and more accurately? That's where you start automating, because your staff shouldn't be replaced. They should be empowered to do the work only they can do, which I believe is hospitality. So that's the first thing. The second thing is simplify your menu. One of the fastest ways to reduce labor headaches and cost is to simplify your menu. Every extra dish you add isn't just another SKU or prep step. It is more ingredients to stock, more prep to train, and more ways for new staff to screw it up, right? And so if you have 50 items on the menu, you're not a restaurant. You're literally a culinary school, all right? Obviously, please, I am making very definite statements here. Everyone is different, but just understand the message, right? So if you have 50 items on the menu, you're not a restaurant, you're a culinary school. So what you need to do is, the first thing that you should do is cut slow sellers. Your menu isn't a catalog, it's a sales tool. Pull a 90-day sale report. Anything selling less than 3% of total volume, cut it immediately, right? This is something that we were doing very often, every 3 months, every quarter. These items don't just fail to sell, they also add friction to your team, right? They waste prep time, they complicate order and inventory, and they just dilute the brand's focus. That is what I believe. And if you want to see a more in-depth crash course on how to do this, I actually created another YouTube video. Maybe we can pop it up somewhere here, or you can go to the channel, which says why 93% of restaurateurs are broke. Feel free to have a watch of that. It goes a little bit more in-depth in this, right? So that's the second thing, simplify your menu. The third thing is onboarding. All right. Now, most people don't talk about this. I would say probably the goat of this, of staff training and things of that sort, is someone called Preston Lee. Feel free to search him up on YouTube. Great guy. But anyways, point being, most restaurateurs think that training means just watch your staff for a shift. I have made this mistake myself. All right. So I have made this mistake myself. Whereas that is not training. That's hoping they figure it out, right? And so in an industry with 70% annual turnover in the US, that is literally a recipe for chaos, no pun intended, okay? The best staff will eventually leave. The question is, will the knowledge leave with them? please listen to what I just said. Your best staff are going to eventually leave if you don't have a great training process. And if you don't have a repeatable, great training process, the knowledge of these great staff will leave with them. And so the first thing that you want to have is a structured onboarding checklist. All right. What do I mean by that? Well, create a list of what each role needs to do before they can start. Okay. Now, what that is, weekly tasks, skills to execute that task, knowledge to perform each skill correctly. All right. And what I would say is that your staff need a clear path, right? And what does trained even mean? How do you know they're ready? That's why a simple checklist for each role basically turns tribal knowledge into transferable systems, okay? So an example, In-N-Out has checklists for everything from greeting guests to assembling a burger, right? New staff don't guess, they just execute on what needs to be done. And so what I would do is, the first thing I would do is define the onboarding timeline. Define day 1, day 3, week 1 goals, all right? So day 1, as an example, meet the team, understand each role, understand each team member's role, the safety, basic responsibilities, give role training materials, things of that sort. Give homework to learn and watch training materials for their role based on info received that day. And if this sounds like something that you've never done before, understand that it's just because these are how the best do it in the industry. All right. So that's the first thing. Build a checklist for everything. Don't rely on memory. Break everything down into clear steps. Think like a dishwasher, line cook, host, cashier, whatever. Right. Things of that sort. And so this is literally how McDonald's ensures that a 16-year-old can open the store and close up as well if they need to. Day 2 can be something like intro to the tech stack, how the POS works, third-party apps, things of that sort, right? And then test on role training materials. If you don't test, you don't know. And then if you don't test, you don't know. And they don't know you care. That is super important, okay? That is one of the most important things. And bearing in mind for the videos and stuff, you don't need fancy equipment. Just use your phone, all right? I promise you, you're going to be fine. And so, yeah, so that's one of the most important things. And then I would also say, in terms of the checklists, when I talk about writing things down, I include that with checklists as well as like standard operating procedures. So what are standard operating procedures? Well, what is the purpose of an SOP in general? I guess one of the main things that I would say is like their playbooks on what to do, right? Standard operating procedure. It's like a step-by-step procedure. It's got tips and tricks, and then it's got an example, right? And so you can film a training video for every single one of these. And an example of this is like how to assemble the menu item step-by-step, or how to deal with a customer complaint, or how to, I think more serious ones would be like how to prep in the morning, things of that sort, right? So I kind of walk through this, but again, it's all pretty much the same. Your best servers know exactly how to diffuse a tense table. Your best line cooks prep 20% faster with no errors. Your manager knows when to comp a meal to turn an angry customer into a loyal one, right? Like a 16-year-old who is just first day in store, someone asks for a refund, he doesn't even know what to do, right? And so problem again, all in their head. When they leave, it's gone. So if you want to survive rising wages and shrinking labor pool, you cannot depend on individual heroics. You need to standardize excellence, build checklists for everything, write standard operating procedures. I want to show you a quick case study of Sweetgreen, right, as an example. So I'm sure everyone here watching this knows Sweetgreen, operational machine, I would say. And basically what happens is new hires don't rely on someone else remembering, right? As it's digital, but basically what it has is this digital training system, right? So training updates can be pushed to all locations without differences in quality control, keeping consistency high. So a new staff member will just scan this, they'll get access to all their training. And the cool thing is because they manage it digitally, if something changes in their procedure, it will automatically update it. People will get notified, I assume, and they will have the access to all standard operating procedures and things like that at their fingertips. And so in summary, right, I was at a networking event with restaurateurs a couple of days back, and I basically just wrote this on my phone on Apple Notes. And I thought this would be a pretty good ending to the video. If you can't teach it, you can't scale it. This isn't about being corporate, right? It's about being consistent. When turnover is 70% a year, the winners will be the ones who get a new hire productive fast, right? A new hire, how quickly you can get someone who joins on productive fast. Because if every new employee has to figure it out on their own, you're paying them to make the same mistakes over and over. Film it, document it, teach it, and turn tribal knowledge into company knowledge. Actually, no, wait. I have one more thing. There's one mindset shift I want you to have. You are not running a restaurant, right? I'm just going to move over there because I don't want you guys to read this. I really want to be able to say this. You are not running a restaurant, right? You're running a factory of hospitality. What this means is for example, during the 20th century, factories that survived were the ones that invested in automation and automation and process of production, right? And so, example, Toyota Production Systems. They cut waste, standardized training, and empowered workers with clear systems. They didn't make cars cheaper, they made them better, right? Because the truth is, you can't control the minimum wage laws or the numbers of workers in your city, but you can control how well you design your systems to handle it, right? Over here, the ideal conditions for making things are created when machines, facilities, and people work together to add value without generating any waste. This is how we should be operating our restaurants in 2025. I hope you found this video valuable. If you want me to touch on any specific subject, please let me know. I'm going to be filming videos every single week, and I would love your guys' feedback. Cheers. Have a good one. I'll see you in the next one.